Good morning, little chef. It's day 25 and my basil plants are still thriving. I do not have a green thumb, so this is very surprising. Growing your own herbs on board ensures that you're always going to have some bit of freshness in your dish, even when your produce gets low. For breakfast, I did toast with cream cheese, lox, capers, tomatoes, red onion, and lemon, and also a little parfait cup, with yogurt, frozen berries, shredded coconut, granola, and almond butter. I'll melt the almond butter with a touch of coconut oil to make it more smooth and creamy rather than sticky and gummy. Parfaits are a great addition to breakfast. I can make them ahead of time, keep them in the fridge, and when the guests wake up, they're ready to go. It is a gorgeous day this morning, so we set the table on the back deck. The morning sun can be a bit intense, so we always go with the back table that is shaded. The group of 7 guests are going to go on an island adventure today, so I'm packing them sandwiches. I started this trip with about 30 pounds of deli meat because we go through a lot of sandwiches. I always make sure there's some kind of deli meat pulled from the freezer and thawing in the fridge to be able to make a sandwich at a moment's notice. Sandwiches are so easy to pack for lunch and quite satisfying when you're laying on a beach. As I'm making the sandwiches, the first mate and the stew are packing a cooler with drinks, and once they're done with it, they'll bring it into the galley so I can put my sandwiches in. The crew works like a well-oiled machine. It's all hands on deck when the guests are leaving the boat. We make sure the tender is filled with food, snacks, drinks, snorkel gear, beach towels, everything that they need to have a fun day. The guests just left, so I headed back into the galley to start prepping. This pineapple was on its very last leg, but I tried to salvage as much as I could. I won't serve this pineapple fresh. I'm just gonna cube it up, put it in a Ziploc baggie, throw it in the freezer, and use it in smoothies. And that's what I'll do with most of the fruit that we have on board that's gonna go bad. I went into my refrigerators to see what produce I had on hand. I saw bell peppers and zucchinis, and leftover duck, green onions, so I decided to make stir fry. I love stir fry because you could throw anything in, put some soy sauce in it, and it'll taste great. I julienned my bell peppers, made little zucchini wedges, and started frying it up in the bacon grease. Next time you make stir fry, try adding a little bit of hoisin and oyster sauce. It's a game changer. If you're interested in taking live cooking classes with me, check the description below. I do once a month cooking classes for $2.99. Once you become a Little Chef member, you'll have access to recipes, previous recorded cooking classes, and all future live cooking classes. And the live classes are done right here on YouTube. Also, if you're enjoying this channel, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For the stir fry, I started off with some oil, then put in carrots, green onion, and my duck. Once the duck fat started to render, I added in my day-old rice. There was no more room in the pan for the vegetables, so I had to pull out another pan and do the vegetables separately. One of the guests stayed behind because she still has a little bit of a cold and not feeling too well, so I set the table on the back deck and we had lunch together. I know you might hear horror stories of guests on below deck, but it's not the case on this boat. The owners of this yacht are amazing people, and all of the friends and family that they bring on board are just the same. They're very kind and appreciative of all of the crew. It's a pretty long time that I'm on this yacht, away from family and friends in my home, but the crew, the guests, and the owners make this very enjoyable. My dream job was to be an executive chef at Walt Disney World. I think I set my expectations for my dream job too low. I never thought in a million years that I'd be cooking on a yacht in the Bahamas. To me, this kind of job was unattainable. And yet, here I am. So I guess the moral of the story is dream big and don't settle, because there could be something much better out there for you. After I served lunch and cleaned up the galley a bit, I got back to prepping. There were a lot of cornbread muffins left over from the barbecue, so I cubed those up, tossed them with a little olive oil and thyme, and made them into croutons. As a chef, I hate waste, so I try to repurpose leftovers the best I can. Tonight for dinner, I'm making a Trinidadian corn chowder with seared scallops. Into the soup, I usually add bell peppers, but I only had these sweet peppers on hand, so that's what we're using. Into a pot, I'll add some olive oil and saute these peppers up with some onions. Not only do I love this corn chowder, but I had a ton of leftover corn on the cob from the barbecue, so that needed to be used up. Again, repurposing leftovers. Sliced up some radish that I'll use as garnish for the dish. Chopped up some sweet potato that's going to help with the velvety texture of the soup when I puree it. And then started taking all the corn off the cob. I'll throw about 3/4 of the corn into the soup and puree it up and save 1/4 of it to garnish with. You want to make sure that you're playing with different textures. Oh, and I almost forgot. A lot of jalapeno goes into this chowder, which is going to be great for the guests with the cold. It's going to clear those sinuses right up. So I'll simmer all these vegetables together and use an immersion blender to get this nice and smooth. If you do not own an immersion blender, I would highly suggest getting one. It's my favorite kitchen tool. You can check out all of my Little Chef essentials down in the description. I make a lot of soups and sauces, so I use the immersion blender probably every day. Instead of having to pour a hot liquid into a blender and dirty the blender and risk it exploding on me, I just stick the immersion blender in and it does the job. And to make this chowder extra creamy, I added in some coconut milk. The color of this chowder is beautiful. You got the orange sweet potato, orange peppers, and yellow corn. The sweetness of the corn is going to pair perfectly with those sweet and tender scallops. Tonight for dinner, I'm serving a 3-course meal, and the first course is a Caesar salad. I make my Caesar dressing from scratch with mayonnaise, anchovy paste, lemon, Dijon mustard, and salt and pepper. And once again, I pull out the immersion blender to blend this up. For the romaine, I'll cut it down the center, flip it 90 degrees, cut down the center again, and make slices back towards the root. This will give you perfect bite-sized pieces. Tonight, I tried to make a healthy cookie dough with cottage cheese. And look at that, I'm using the immersion blender again. If you don't like the texture of cottage cheese, blend it up and your mind might be changed. To make some healthy nacho cheese, I'll blend up some cottage cheese, add in shredded cheddar cheese, and melt it in the microwave. The guests finally returned back to the yacht, so I went outside to help them tie off. Brian ran out of Gatorade, and he said he needs his electrolytes if he's out in the sun all day. I told him I'd make some homemade Gatorade for him if he brought me some coconut water. They found a coconut, and the captain scraped out all of the coconut meat that we'll use in smoothies, and poured out the coconut water that I'm going to use to make homemade Gatorade. That's much better than the last one we tried.
Make my drink. Shake out of it in the morning. Give me the bowl.
I heard.
Are you ready?
Oh my goodness. That's a ton of water. It's a ton.
Gatorade.
Gatorade. Homemade Gatorade. Alright. I'm gonna go make some homemade Gatorade. So we started off with this beautiful coconut water with tons of electrolytes. I added in some lemonade, some mango juice, and a good helping of some pink Himalayan salt. I gave it a stir until all the salt dissolved and poured up a cup so Brian could taste it. You want a taste test?
Taste test of what?
The homemade Gatorade.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Tastes like body armor. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Made with coconut water, but it tastes really close to that.
Dinner attire for the evening. We've got black shorts, gray polo. For cocktail hour, I served smoked fish dip and some marinated vegetables and crackers. I headed to the upper deck to check and see how the crew was doing, and look at this, the table's all set and ready to go. While the guests were enjoying cocktail hour on the bow, I was in the galley plating up their first course of Caesar salad. I topped the Caesar salads with Parmesan cheese and freshly cracked pepper, brought them up to the upper deck, and called the guests to the table. While the guests are enjoying their first course, I'm in the galley searing off scallops for the main course. Since I use frozen scallops, I like to heavily salt them to help draw out most of that moisture. The drier the scallop, the better the sear. I'll get my pan ripping hot, throw in some butter, and sear off the scallops about 30 seconds each side. The stovetop that I'm working on is an induction burner, which is great because it can boil water in like 3 minutes, but I prefer gas. With gas ranges, you can control the temperature a lot better, but on a yacht, you don't want to have open flames. You see that gnarly bruise on my arm? That's actually not a bruise, that is a bug bite. Hopefully, I did not pick up a scary disease. Honestly, it's pretty scary to think about. If you needed medical care out here in the middle of the ocean, it would not come quickly. We're just off the shore of a remote island. It would probably take at least 3 hours to get medical care. Thankfully, no one has gotten really sick or hurt themselves. That was me knocking on wood. To plate this dish, I put down my Trinidadian corn chowder and laid my seared scallops on top. I plate with the rule of odds in mind, so I'll group things in odd numbers. It's just more appealing to the eye, so notice that I use 5 scallops and 3 radishes. I brought the main dishes to the upper deck and went back into the galley to work on desserts. The healthy cookie dough was a little strange. It was a bit chalky because I used vanilla protein powder in it. The vanilla protein powder also had greens in it, so it gave it a strange green hue. I gave it a taste and it definitely was not cookie dough. So I made some real cookies just in case. I make a huge batch of chocolate chip cookie dough at the beginning of the trip and keep it stored in the freezer so I can pull it at any time. I plated up the desserts, brought it to the upper deck, and got back into the galley to start cleaning. Good thing I love keeping things clean because this is 50% of the job. After I cleaned up the galley, the captain asked if we wanted to go into the island. Of course we said yes. We hung out at the restaurant for about an hour and then got back to the yacht. I love driving back in the dinghy at night. You can see all of the stars in the sky. There's very little light pollution, so you can almost see the Milky Way. The moon was also looking crazy beautiful tonight. Bye, little chef.